From the Alex Trebek stage at Sony Picture Studios, this is Inside Jeopardy!
Hello and welcome back to Inside Jeopardy, your exclusive and official podcast destination for all things happening in the world of Jeopardy, now in July. I'm Sarah Foss, and I'm here today with Buzzy Cohen. Happy July, Buzzy.
Happy July to you too, Sarah. We made it halfway through the year.
I know. This is exciting. 4th of July's coming up.
Yeah.
I know you usually go to a place where
That
your dog won't have to endure fireworks. Is that the plan yet again this year?
Sadly, no. We are not
no.
doing that. We have
Okay.
a lot of stuff going on with the kids. You know, as the kids get older, the summers
They
get
got stuff.
trickier. And so the
Yeah.
idea of packing it all up for a couple days didn't happen. So we're going to just hope for the best.
Okay. Did we get any medicine for the dog?
Always have
or-
some medicine.
Okay,
and also, this is a little bit sad, but she is about to turn 13 in August,
Aw.
and she doesn't hear so well anymore, which actually kind of makes things a little bit better
little bit
during
better.
the fireworks. Yeah, how about you? What are you doing?
Well, we're going to head up to Santa Barbara this year, a little Santa Barbara 4th of July with the kids, so that should be fun. And we're leaving our dog at home with
Nice.
with friends.
Sounds great.
Well, last week, giant killer,
Yes.
Drew Basile, the impressive 7-game run came to an end. You'll get to hear my conversation with Drew a little later on in the pod about, what
Yeah.
it meant to him, knowing that he had solidified a spot in the TOC.
And I love how it's not often enough for us to call it a trend, but we're starting to see some more of these like back-to-back champs that are going to appear in the same TOC, and we love a good storyline like that.
We love
right?
it, and we won't know if we'll get a rematch because, of course, we usually don't seed them in the same quarterfinal games because they have obviously played each other before. We try to avoid that as long as we can in something like the Tournament of Champions. But looking back, James Holzhauer, Emma Betcher, they ended up in the finals against each other, and it was one for the ages. James ended up coming out on top, but boy, Emma
Just
certainly
barely
gave him a run for his money. Well, we're going to get into all of last week's highlights soon, but first, it's time to take a look back at this week in Jeopardy history.
And now we come to Ben, who could not be caught. He played extremely well. Did he come up with Murder on the Orient Express, Agatha Christie? Yes. And his wager? What's that, your age? 29. Well, 20,629 to start the week. Happy Canada Day to you. And we'll say goodbye until tomorrow. So long, everybody.
It was on this very day, July 1st, back in 2013, when we witnessed Ben Ingram become a Jeopardy champion for the first time after an impressive runaway win. Ben would go on to win 8 games that season. He would come back to win the 2014 Tournament of Champions. And of course, he returned this year for our JIT. He was defeated in the quarterfinals, but he did have the unfortunate luck of going up against none other than the JIT champion and the eventual Masters champion, the Queen Victoria Gross. So tough draw for Ben in the JIT.
Great player, great guy. That 2014 Tournament of Champions is, if you all haven't seen it and you have a way to find it, it was a wild one.
It was.
The finals, that was Arthur Chu and Julia Collins, I believe, against Ben. And Ben was definitely not the favorite of those three. So it was a very exciting come from behind, and he was incredible. He's always been incredibly gracious about it and loves playing bridge. Always wants to get a bridge game going amongst the fellow Jeopardy champs.
And I know has such a great relationship with Julia Collins as well. So
good friends.
Well, coming off of a thrilling tiebreaker win, Drew Basile returned on Monday to go for his 4th victory. And despite a great performance by challenger Graham Hicks, Drew cruised into a runaway win. This was exciting, Buzzy, because Drew actually broke the record for most correct responses this season.
Wow.
He had 33. Of course, whenever we talk about correct responses, we do exclude Final Jeopardy.
Sure.
The previous record holder, Javaria Zahir. So, wow.
Yeah. Javaria, I can't see the future, but I hope that we have not seen the last of Javaria, because it's, how many times has Javaria come back up just in the last couple of weeks?
I agree. Her name comes into the discussion because there's so many various stats and records that she set earlier in the season. Unfortunately, this wasn't the only notable stat in the game, Buzzy. Aaron Bucher recorded the second lowest score in Jeopardy history, ending Double Jeopardy with negative 7,200. The lowest score belongs to Patrick Pierce back in 2021 with negative 7,400. He had the unfortunate fate of going against Matt Amodio. And, of course, here's Aaron going against Drew. But I love the Jeopardy community coming to support Aaron online. Even Graham, one of her competitors, chiming in to say, huge respect for Aaron. That's a tough situation to be in, and lots of people would have let it knock them down. Instead, she dug in and kept swinging just like a tough competitor should. Allison Betts from earlier this season, she's jumping in. I feel like she's our new Jeopardy cheerleader for all contestants, saying anyone who makes it all the way to the Jeopardy stage is capable of winning multiple games, and anyone can be felled by bad luck. On top of that, it takes nerves of steel to take the big swings necessary to try to get oneself out of the hole. I saw 3 wonderful and worthy players on today's stage. Congrats to all for a well-fought game.
Yeah, Aaron actually chimed in after this and said, when it came to the buzzer, I was my own worst enemy, frequently buzzing in midway through the clue as if my thumb had a mind of its own. There's something uniquely frustrating about knowing answers but not having the wherewithal to ring in at the appropriate time to answer them. That was my deficit, and I own it entirely. All in all, it was still a great experience. As the alternate for the week before, I got to know all the contestants who aired last week really well, and they were truly salt of the earth.
So like you, a fellow alternate, at one point. And I love that Aaron is seeing the positive and also just acknowledging that gives you an opportunity to meet that many more, fellow Jeopardy contestants. And what a great group that is.
And I think Allison is really right, because when you are in the hole, you gotta go for it.
Yeah,
right?
you gotta keep swinging.
So many people get down there and they kind of just take themselves out of the game. It's a tough break that Aaron had, but I think if I were in her shoes, I would have tried to do what she did.
Well, Ken caught up with the players after the game. Let's see how Drew was feeling after that 4th win.
33 correct responses, Drew. That's quite a game. That's a record so far in season 40.
Was all that candy in the break room?
Candy, is that right?
No.
Tell us your brand. It's okay to name your sponsor here.
Well, I got sick last week on the Sour Patch Kids, so I've been doing chocolate today, so we'll see. Sour
Patch Kids. Aaron, I felt for you in that game because you were playing exactly the right way. I could see you buzzing in, but against 2 pretty speedy buzzers. And that just means when you can get in, it's catch as catch can, right?
It's a teachable moment for my children.
Are they here again today?
My daughter's here, yeah.
The one who wants to know what Jeopardy's going to be like in the year 2043 or whatever. In 2043, we will not make the players who wind up in the negative pay us back, but in fact, your mom does owe us over $7,000 right now. I'm sorry to say. No, that's the Marge Simpson rule, I think. We don't actually do that in real life. Well, I hope the teachable moment is that you could still have a good time on a show, even though even though it's a very tough draw.
This is part of what makes Jeopardy Jeopardy, and it's still an amazing experience.
Some days it's going to be a very tough 3-game champ. You guys are seeing Drew early, but this might not even be his final form. Monday is kind of a possible day to beat a returning champ who might be a little bit off their game. But Drew, you now have 4 wins to your name, and you're going for number 5 tomorrow, and you know what that means. That's a guaranteed Tournament of Champions invite.
Oh, a lot of pressure.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Are you feeling it?
A little bit. I didn't think it would ever get so close.
You just have this kind of aw shucks demeanor. Is that legit? It's okay to tell us if you're actually...
I try to manage expectations, Ken. Don't be too confident.
Well, after seeing a 33 correct response game, I don't think anybody's fooled anymore, Drew. That was well played.
Thank you.
Congratulations to all 3 of you. Drew, best of luck tomorrow. We'll see what happens.
Thanks.
All right, Drew went for the all-important 5th win on Tuesday, and after a close Jeopardy round, he headed into Double Jeopardy in 2nd place behind Stacey Garner. But then Drew pulled ahead with the help of the last daily double of the game, maintaining a lead heading into final. There, he was correct to become our 5th official Tournament of Champions qualifier, and believe it or not, the first male to qualify. He even joked with Ken after the game. He said, Ken, I've never been good with the ladies, but we'll see what luck holds.
As someone who, podcast producer Alexa said, bears a resemblance to me, I feel you there, Drew. I get it. Being a lanky, nerdy, bespectacled guy is tough, but I also know that lanky, nerdy, bespectacled guys have a good return rate on the Tournament of Champions.
And look, you got a happy, successful marriage and 2 children, a 13-year-old dog almost. So, you're winning, Buzzy. You're winning. If Drew could be so lucky in his future. Well, of course, Jeff Probst hosted Rock and Roll Jeopardy back in the day, so our co-executive producer Lisa Brofman reached out to him during Drew's run to say, hey, you're never going to believe it. Drew Basile from season 45 of your show is actually doing really well on our show. And Jeff was like, that's awesome. I'm so happy for him. That's great news. So we ended up sharing that with Ken, and he shared that with Drew during his interview, which at that point Drew said, wow, I don't even know what to say, that Jeff Probst knows that I'm on Jeopardy. This is cool.
That's pretty cool. Something I did want to bring up was that Alan's daily double in the Jeopardy round, he dropped 3,000 after missing that one about the rose tattoo. After the game, Ken actually told Alan that he also had a daily double during GOAT about the rose tattoo, and then he found it difficult because he had never seen the play. Ken wagered $15,200 and was correct, however. The clue,
different.
Yeah, a little bit different. The clue was in this 1951 play, Serafina's dead husband sports the title Ink on his chest.
Rose tattoo.
Rose tattoo. All right. If you're out there in Jeopardy land and you're getting ready to be on the show, just find out about the rose tattoo.
Maybe get one. Who knows? I did love that Alan casually said later in the Jeopardy round, bring it, I guess. And, we haven't heard her bring it in a few months. So
also, but I don't know if you're really bringing it if you say I guess.
I don't know.
We'll see.
We're still happy that he's honoring Sam Buttrey and some level of enthusiasm.
Yeah, we love it.
In the post-game chat, Ken did point out that he saw Drew writing part of his final Jeopardy response, but then Drew took a break and he thought about it for a bit before eventually writing down the correct response. And Drew joked, what's funny, Ken? I'm competing against two people here, but my worst enemy is myself. I'm sure you can relate to that, Buzzy.
Yep.
And so Drew said at first, I thought it's Fort McHenry. Then I really started to think, and then I forgot the word, and I was like, oh my God, what if I said impend wrong? And then I lost, and then the whole building collapsed. And at the very end, it was my dying gesture. I just threw it out there. He was referring to saying impent versus impend, which he did say. The clue, of course, this word from Latin for to hang can replace coming, especially when what's coming isn't good. Whew, these are all the things. It's 30
There's
seconds.
There's a lot going on in that brain.
And yet so much is going through a champion's mind or
100%.
Any contestant's mind.
Yeah.
I did have the chance to check in with Drew right after he secured his spot in the Tournament of Champions. Take a listen. Drew Basile, 5-game Jeopardy champion. How does that sound?
It sounds amazing, Sarah. And I'll tell you, I came here to the Alex Trebek stage with very low expectations. It's been years since I played trivia. And I was just faced with competitor after competitor. And so to be able to pull through for 5 games to, punch my ticket for the Tournament of Champions, it's really a dream come true.
Well, let's talk about how that first win went. You defeated a 15-game champion. We called you our giant killer at 6'6". That had to feel pretty good as a way to punch your first win.
Yeah, it is kind of ironic when David is the size of Goliath, but nonetheless, it didn't feel real at all. And that I had taken a game off of one of the most elite players who's come through here in quite a while. It was kind of like a reality check that, whoa, you could beat anybody. Questions might matter based on the question set, but anything is possible. And so that's exciting, but that's also quite stressful because it's like, I better keep it up.
Well, in game 1, you told us you have, of course, competed on Survivor. And we know that's intense, but what's it like competing on the Alex Trebek stage in comparison?
Well, they have different, physical problems like eye strain, back pain from standing up straight. Okay, yeah. Jeopardy's got lock on those. Starvation, the games are only 30 minutes-ish, but this is a very different experience, Jeopardy is, because it's high pressure in a single moment, and every decision matters in that instant. There's no take-back. Survivor, it's 26 days, and it's a different kind of endurance game. And so I would say that for those opportunistic players looking to make the jump from one to the other, that past experience is not going to save you on this present gauntlet.
Yeah, it's not something we've seen before. Survivor champion / Jeopardy champion. I have to know, which one did you apply for first?
They're roughly at the same time.
Okay.
I applied for Survivor first, And Jeopardy was always something that I watched to study and I knew I'd be really good at, but I kind of thought, let's wait for the right moment. You guys have a storied history, years and years and years, and I figured if I was 40, I could still come on and win a few bucks. So there wasn't quite that urgency. That being said, I think now was the perfect time to play, and I think I proved it with winning 5 games and hopefully coming in hot to the Tournament of Champions.
Did you have the Tournament of Champions in your sights when you started this adventure?
No way. No way. An outer possibility. I had Rent the vacations in my sights. And then you start to realize that, like, wait a second, there is a whole nother higher echelon of competition that you can unlock with a couple right answers, a couple lucky daily doubles. And that really appeals to the competitor in me. So there's kind of a realignment of focus once you get to game 3, game 4, and you can tell playoffs are in the air.
Well, obviously your run's still going, but thinking ahead to the Tournament of Champions, you mentioned you hadn't really been involved in trivia for a while. You will have time to prepare, perhaps intensely.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think that looks like for you? What does like an intense preparation look like? And is it something you want to sign on for?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a conception that studying for Jeopardy is impossible. You just have to pay attention, you have to watch the show. I found that every game that I played, my month of study, probably $2,000 to $3,000 came my way because of that last second cramming. So Jeopardy is very studyable, and I think I'm going to really systematically hit some weak points. So that looks like pop culture, music, television, things like that. And then we might see a stronger, a little bit more hip Drew when it comes time for my return.
Is there such a thing?
There most certainly is.
What's been the best part of the experience so far?
It's the rush. Like, it's being up there, back against the wall, and being able to come through, because it's very validating. It gets the adrenaline pumping like nothing else. And despite my nerdy demeanor, I love a thrill. So there's really nothing like competition, and Jeopardy is competition at one of its most intellectual highs.
I love it. Well, congratulations on 5 wins, and good luck in your next game.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Wednesday's game, where after another tight Jeopardy round, Drew turned it on in Double Jeopardy. He found both of the daily doubles, forming a strong lead, but Merrill Harris was close behind. Those two battled it out on the last few clues, but Drew managed to secure a narrow runaway and his 6th win. But good game for Merrill.
Incredible. I mean, $200, the difference between a runaway and not a runaway, that's as good as you can get against someone who's really hot, as Drew clearly is.
Yeah, I think not only will Merrill be considered for second chance, Merrill made a guess on the second to last clue to try to stay in contention. I certainly learned something in this clue.
Yeah.
Ellis Island. It's been debunked that this often happened at Ellis Island. Inspectors just verified info from ship manifests. And so many people think that the names were changed, but no.
Didn't happen that much.
Didn't happen. Merrill responded with what is quarantining, because again, she had to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, like, what are the two things you think of with Ellis Island, right?
Yeah, so I think we all learned a little something. In the post-game chat, Ken said that he liked her decision to buzz in there and take a swing. He said, "Isn't that weird that they didn't change names at Ellis Island? It's a misconception." Natalie chimed in and she said she was always told that her grandfather's name was changed there. And then Ken joked, "That's what we're going to hear after this airs. What about my family?"
Yeah, and
everyone's history.
I mean, that was like a pretty crucial part of The Godfather 2, when a young Vito Corleone, and they changed his name to Corleone and they put him in quarantine. Like, we kind of captured the whole.
We did.
Yeah.
And yet I don't know what to believe now. Well, Drew returned on Thursday to go up against challengers Luke Hemphill and Jayakar Kohli. All 3 players were evenly matched in the Jeopardy round, but it was Jayakar who took the lead heading into Double Jeopardy. There, he missed the first daily double, allowing Drew to regain the lead. Drew then got the last daily double correct, and he locked up a runaway. Yeah,
this is one of those cases where that seemingly small wager of the $2,000 daily double is the difference between a win and a loss here for Jayakar, because with 11,800 doubling that up and being correct, locking out Drew Basile, who was incorrect on this final. So, dare I say it for the second time in a podcast?
I think you dare.
Possible second chance contender?
Yeah, 17 correct responses.
This is also one of those situations where Luke and Jayakar being, so evenly matched here, kind of like it's the third player complication. If it's just Jayakar against Drew or just Luke against Drew, they might have a different outcome, but it kind of felt to me a little bit like the two of them were competing for a lot of the same material and boxing each other out and not letting one, take that step ahead that they needed to.
Yeah. And Jayakar, as you mentioned, the only one correct in Final Jeopardy with that response of "Who is Colonel Sanders?" Ken asked, how did you know that response? And Jayakar said, "I just really like fried chicken, I guess."
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Well, we closed out the week with an exciting game on Friday. After spending the Jeopardy round, believe it or not, in the red, Drew caught his stride in Double Jeopardy and quickly worked his way into the lead. He finishes the round strong, and despite missing both of the daily doubles, he almost earned a runaway. But Cat Pisacano remained in contention heading into final. There, Drew could not come up with the correct response, but Cat comes from behind to defeat a 7-game champion who defeated a 15-game champion.
Yes.
Like, this is exciting.
So Cat basically beat a 22-game champion.
Pretty much.
That's how this works, right?
How it
the
looks.
transitive property of
I think it totally works.
Yeah.
Well, there was a fun moment in the Jeopardy round. TV catchphrases for $400. Casting about for a line to go along with snuffing out a torch on Survivor, executive producer Mark Burnett came up with this one. I don't even know what we would do if Drew doesn't buzz in, but he does. He emphatically responds, "What is the tribe has spoken?"
Yes, I hope that a clip of that can get sent to Jeff Probst to like complete the loop on this.
Yes, because really later in that game, the tribe did.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at Drew's wrap-up stats because they're impressive. Total winnings, $129,601, 4 runaway wins, 180 total correct responses. That's an average of 23 per game, averaging about 40 buzzer attempts per game, also really good. One stat that isn't quite as great for Drew is Final Jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with so many runaways, he didn't need it very much, but he was only 3 for 8, so about 38%. Something, when you compare that to an Adriana Harmeyer, who was 13 for 16, probably something Drew's going to work on, before the TOC, I'm guessing.
And that really is something specific that you can get better at and work on. I think that Final Jeopardy plays really different. It's written differently, as we've discussed with our head writers. So that is something that you can just drill on Final Jeopardies. And I think a big part of it that's hard for people, I don't know if this is a challenge for Drew, this is a challenge for me, is you stare at that category for a long time.
Yeah, almost too much time.
Too much time because you start to think about what it could be, and then the clue comes up and you're like, whoa, this isn't where I thought it was going to be. So, working on just kind of thinking, not totally clearing your mind, but just staying in the moment, definitely something I think Drew, given how great the rest of his play is, I think he'll be able to punch that up.
Well, we learned a little something about Kat in the interview. While volunteering in Ecuador, she was learning some German phrases from her fellow volunteers. She asked them to teach her how to say a line she remembered from a stand-up comedy routine, that line being, "The monkey is on the table." The next day, they came across a monkey on the table, and she shouted, give us your best German, Buzzy.
Der Aff liegt auf dem Tisch.
Right. There it was. You never know when these things are going to come back to help you. I'm hoping you're with me the next time I see a monkey on the table, because that was great.
Klar, ausgezeichnet.
Well, let's see how Kat was feeling after defeating the giant killer Drew.
Kat, with the upset. How are you feeling?
Good.
You don't look super pumped. Is it on the inside?
It's more stunned than anything else.
You did not think you had a good chance against our 7-game champ here?
I thought I had a good chance going in, but then at the end I figured he'd definitely get final, so the odds weren't great.
Well, you played very well in that game, Drew. The 2 daily doubles were kind of the Achilles heel for you. And that's exactly what happened, not to make everything about myself, but I will. Like in my final game, I found both the daily doubles in double jeopardy, and I thought, this is it, I can put this away. And then I did what you did, and I went 0 for 2. It just happens. Those were tough clues, I think. Like Louisiana, Florida could go either way, I think.
I appreciate it, Ken. I mean, it's a long, it's only one day on TV, but it's a long day of taping. And I think at the end I was starting to
You're starting to feel it a little bit?
I couldn't even think of a clothing item to begin with B. I was just washed.
That's what our recent Super Champ said, that she had to play, her 15-game streak was like a lot of it was like bunched into the same few days, and it takes a toll. But Kat, you're coming in fresh as a daisy, apparently. You also had some time to watch Drew play.
Yeah.
Did that help? Were you scouting him out from the stands?
Yeah. Though the green room does make it go a little crazy.
In what way?
It's just all day sitting there watching him win.
Well, apparently you were not too intimidated, because there were times in the first round where, you were the player who was having the best game. Like, that was legit, I think. What was your secret, do you think? How does one beat a 7-game champ like that?
Honestly, I've had a lot of things going on in life lately that have been busy, but they've all gone well, so I just kept telling myself I'm going to keep this streak going.
You manifested a monkey on a table. Did you learn how to say, I'm going to beat Drew at Jeopardy in German?
No, but I should call them up and have them teach me that.
And Drew, you now have some time to prepare for the Tournament of Champions. You've got a big return engagement coming up here. What's your plan?
I don't know. I mean, I got to get a master's first. Yeah, you know, it's a long time away. Any work I do now is just gonna. So I'm gonna enjoy it and then spend my Jeopardy bucks, and then well, when I need a new check, I'll start prepping.
I see. Then you'll come crawling back to Jeopardy when you've partied through all your money. Well, congratulations. Your total winnings, $129,000 and change. Well done. 7 games, nothing to sneeze at. But it's Kat Pisacano who survives. We'll see you on Monday, Kat. Well done.
Thank you.
Great game.
I love what Ken did there. He said, but it's Kat Pisacano who survives. Get what he did there?
I do.
All right, now time for our host chat. An audience member asked Ken, did you play any sports as a kid?
Did I ever play any sports as a kid? Mostly basketball, some ping pong. I'm not very good at any of them, which is probably a huge surprise to anybody who's seen me on Jeopardy. I enjoy sports, but I'm not good at them, but that's actually good. It makes me less competitive.
All right, Buzzy. Well, that is it for today's show. Join us next week, everyone, for more game highlights. Plus, we're going to catch up with Drew Basile on the pod, all about his time on the Alex Trebek stage.
See you then.
See you then.
Hey, thanks for watching. Click on the subscribe button and don't miss a moment.